welcome back to the Money Making Mamas podcast. I'm Nancy Wallace-Lobbs.
And I'm Kelsey Laka.
And we are a mother-daughter duo that helps moms make money.
Mm-hmm.
So we're pretty excited. This is our 10th episode. Yep. And I read a statistic that said 74% of people that do podcasts don't get past 10.
That's crazy.
So I know. I don't know if I believe that because there's a lot of people that do podcasts. But anyway, so if that's true, then, when we drop this, yay.
What's also funny is someone yesterday, we were at the Frisco Chamber, and they said, what did they say? They said like 70-something or 60-something of stats is made up.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I guess it's what, and then, they talked about podcast numbers. And so, you know what? We're just having fun, right? And we're growing our audience one follower at a time. And we're okay with that. Yeah. It's hard to know about the analytics because of the way we run through the RSS feed, whatever that means. And I keep getting a message from YouTube. It's disconnecting. So I'm like, okay. So we haven't figured out all the tech knows about it, but we're having fun. And
also, if you stuck around for last week's episode, I don't think I told you this, or I don't know if you noticed, but sometimes, so we have our setup right now is the iPhone is capturing one side and the my camera is, our fancier camera is connected or doing the whole episode. And so last week, I think either the battery ran out or I don't know something, but it stopped recording the last 10 minutes. And thankfully we had the iPhone one, but I had to switch over to the iPhone video, and I guess on the tripod it's like so sorry, audience. But if you stuck around, thanks.
So, but the audio was probably good. So
yeah, the audio was
if you're listening,
good.
Yeah. So we're still, it's a journey to figure out all the techno, just to do the podcast, and so we are getting ready to have guests. And we're trying to figure out how that works with a third microphone. Yep. So stay tuned. It might not be till episode 12, 13, 14, or 15. So,
yeah.
So, okay, Kelsey. Well, last week we had a fun video. We had a fun podcast. We talked about you and me and our relationship and where
nope, that was not it.
Oh, we didn't?
That was...
Oh, it was short-term rentals.
Yeah.
Okay, I got it mixed up.
You're thinking of the one we just released.
Oh, the one we just released. Okay, that was a good one, too.
Yeah.
But the short-term rental one was really good, right?
I like doing that one.
Yeah, that was fun. Because we talked about, owning a vacation. Because, everybody wants who doesn't want a vacation
house? And we
house?
talked more of, I personally think more of the fun side of that, which is, the decorating or, the visual things rather than the nitty-gritty of, the actual...
How do you find it? Yes. Get the lending. That's
analyzing it.
Yeah, and that's all good. We actually cover that in our membership or whatnot. But so this week, we both had a very busy week, and we had a very cool presentation yesterday. So we're filming this on a Friday. So yesterday we were the breakfast sponsors at the Frisco Chamber of Commerce, and we literally knocked it out of the park, don't you think? Yeah. And literally the clicker that you had in your hand flew out of your hand because we were so excited. But people loved it. We had people coming up to us and everything, and I think what they really appreciated was that we didn't bring breakfast tacos.
Yeah.
They were all about the fruit and the muffins and the, the pastries and it was yummy. It was yummy. So, but it was a lot. It was fun. It was really fun.
I like doing those because I know, we're part of the Frisco Chamber, and I don't get to go to a lot of those, but when I do, I feel like I've been to the fun ones, like the Halloween one, where we dressed up as Kim and Courtney, or not Kim and Courtney, Kim and Chris.
Yeah.
And then, a couple other ones. And when we did it's cool because I think people obviously remember us, they know us. And when we did our presentation last time, 6 months ago, it was really an introductory one.
Right.
And so now it's okay, this one was what we have been doing.
Right. Cool. And we talked about, a statistic. Now I do believe this one, less than 32% of women are investors, so it's very male dominated. Yeah. And we talked about why, how is it that women don't invest more? And, a couple of reasons is fear, not knowing the right people, imposter syndrome. Yeah. I think we're going to do a podcast on just imposter syndrome because did you notice how many women raised their hand when I brought that up? So, well, anything else going on personally? How's the potty training going? And
it's going good. He's doing really, really good. I will say, I haven't told you this, but yesterday, Zach and him were playing on our bed, and our bed is like, I don't know, 3 feet off the ground, would you say?
Yeah.
Like, it's not high.
Not, yeah.
But he kind of fell forward off the bed, and luckily, and we have like a good size, like, I don't know, like
a platform.
A platform that's like 6 inches, wouldn't you say, of like hardwood. And I always get so nervous that the kids are going to like bump their heads. Luckily, he missed that, but he ended up, the way he fell on his lip and bit his lip, and I mean like half of his bottom, I mean it was just like blood.
Oh,
not
no.
to like be gross or anything like that, but I thought he's busted his lip. I mean, this is like the 4th time.
Yeah.
But you know, each time is just traumatic because it's just such a like you hit it.
Yeah, there's a lot of blood vessels there too.
So anyways, this morning, I mean, and he's such a trooper, but he was also tired because he got up like super early, and so by the time like bedtime rolled around, he absolutely passed out. But then this morning I got him up, and oh my gosh, his lip is like like it's all puffy.
Looks like he's
really
doing some chew, right?
Yeah, he doesn't really want to talk. And I like asked him, I was like, does it hurt today? And he goes, no. I was like, okay. And I was like, but it looks rough. But he's such a trooper. And then it was funny because this morning I got him up, and I was like, hi, Bear Bear. And he goes, hi, Mama.
Aw.
So it's just funny.
He's a sweetie.
Yeah, no, but potty training's going really good, and yeah, I just can't believe it's starting to get warmer weather, which is really nice.
I know we're headed to the lake this weekend because we're going to talk about this, but we're actually we have another episode coming up about how to maximize spaces. So we're actually in one of our Airbnbs, we're going to maximize the beds by building built-in quad bunk beds. So I'm excited about that.
Side note, he never really cuddles up to
I
me
know.
like
This is Murray, for those of you. He's a Havanese, and he got cut because, or shaved. He is cut too, but he got shaved because he has the hair of a poodle. So
I will say he's being real sweet right now.
Yeah, he just wants to be in the moment. So.
Okay, so one thing that I thought would be really good to talk about today was one question I get asked a lot, and this was something that I did not know about until this helped me make the jump when I decided to quit my job and become a full-time real estate investor. But you know, a lot of people expect that they should have all this cash on hand to invest in real estate. And there's an episode we talk about, you know, debunks and things like that. And that is not true. I mean, you need some cash, but you don't need like 20% right off the bat. And so, one thing that you and I talked about, because I told you, I was like, I don't have a lot of cash on hand. I don't want to go through my savings. How else can I do? And my 401k, if I quit my job, it doesn't just go away, but it doesn't gain anything either. It just kind of sits there. And so one thing that we talked about was taking that and using that to invest in real estate. So do you I think that would be a great episode for today. And
okay, so I think we're going to talk about self-directed IRAs and investing with them. So yes. So what you have is like kind of with a fidelity, right? So you can't direct, you know, what you do with the money. Yeah. You can like, you know, like whatever associated stocks they have, you can, you know, pick those like the ABC or whatever it is. But you can't say, okay, I want to invest in, you know, gold, or I want to invest in gas and oil, or I want to invest in real estate. So you do have to roll it over. So first off, let's just kind of, you know, I want to make it really simple, right? Because it's a topic that you can really get into the weeds. So you're going to help me not get in the weeds. I'm going to try not to do lingo and jargon.
Well, and really quick, just to pause there, you've taught a couple of classes and like talked about this. So do you want to give a little bit of your background on self-directed IRAs and how you've kind of become? Yeah.
So since 2018, that's when I learned how to use a self-directed IRA. And I did it by going to Lunch and Learns, and there is some info on the internet, but for me it was Lunch and Learns, and you know, kind of a trial and error kind of thing.
Okay. Sorry, really quick, the dog got on my laptop, but we're good.
Okay, all right, okay.
Keep going. We're not even going to edit that out.
It's a blooper.
All right,
I'm sorry. So we have a small IRA, right? And so when I say, I'm going to talk about small dollar IRAs, and that is an IRA that has less than $50,000. You know, I mean, you can invest with, you know, $200,000, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000, but specifically, I learned how to use small dollar IRAs. So what I did, I guess we're going to jump into a story just to kind of illustrate what I'm talking about. So in 2018, I went to a Lunch and Learn, and I was like, wow, you can actually invest with a self-directed IRA. So a self-directed IRA is like a traditional IRA, a Roth IRA, a 529 Cloverdale, I think it's called, HSA, Health Savings Account, but it's with a custodian company, right? So it's with a company that's what they do. They only have self-directed IRAs, and there's a ton of them out there. So the one that
what are a couple?
so I did with Quest Trust Company, but they recently sold last year, and so now there's a couple. I think I want to say like New View and Trusted Self-Directed IRA. So there's just a lot, and I've done some presentations for New View. I think they're out of Florida. But you could just Google it and you'll find a bunch of them. And we'll talk about due diligence later. But anyway, I went to a lunch and learn, and this guy named Nate Hare that was at Quest at the time, he talked about this, buying real estate. And I was like, oh, okay. So as it turned out, I was marketing absentee owners. I sent out a bunch of postcards that say, hey, I buy houses. And this guy called me, and he had a house in the historic district of Fort Worth. And long story short, we ended up buying that. I had a partner. We bought the house for $10,000 sight unseen. And that's the reason I could do that is I knew that neighborhood. I'd been marketing over there. And I was like, okay, yeah, we got it papered up in terms of like I got the contract and everything. And then when we went and looked at the house, we're like, okay, it's rough.
Yeah.
And so, but when I got it under contract, I was like, oh, because my half was only $5,000. Because remember, the purchase price was 10, and I had a partner. So my partner was paying cash, so he paid $5,000, and then I paid with my self-directed IRA. So I called up the custodial company. I said, hey, how do I do this? And they walked me through the forms that you need to do it. You work with a title company. So it's exactly like closing as if you had cash.
Yeah.
But it's just some paperwork, right?
Yeah.
So the cool thing is that Nancy does not own the real estate. The self-directed IRA owns it. So what does that mean? Well, so what ended up happening with that house? We ended up owner financing that house. So we sold it 3 days later for $50,000. And our terms were $10,000 down, so we were made whole. Yeah. I got my $5,000 back for my self-directed IRA. My partner got the $5,000 back that they had put down. And then we financed $40,000 for 15 years, like I think 10.5%. So the payment for the person, the end buyer, was around $450. So every month, $225 goes right into my self-directed IRA.
Yeah.
So I'm growing my self-directed IRA. And I'm not a CPA or financial advisor, but here's what I can tell you about that. So I don't claim that on my taxes because I personally don't own it. Now, when I cash it out, then that would be. But right now, I'm just building wealth in a self-directed IRA.
Yeah. And then what can you do with that later on?
So later on, so let's just say they sold the house. They would pay it off. So the money goes in there. And then I can just rinse and repeat. So as that builds, so you can buy properties. The other thing that I've done is become a small private money lender. So for reference, I wrote an article. I'm pretty sure you can find it if you research Forbes.com. Small dollar IRAs, Nancy Wallace Lobbs. And it's about how I took I think I had like 10 or 15,000, but one of my investor friends needed $136,000 to buy a house and flip it or whatnot.
Right.
And so I had been speaking about investing with a small dollar IRA. And so I met several people some people had 40,000, some people had 5,000, some people had, 10. And so there's a way for us to not combine our money, but come together on paper to be a lender. So the way it works is there were 6 of us on the deal that we came to, and it's a little bit more involved than just doing it on the podcast. But basically, if you have $4,000, you can become a private money lender.
Yeah.
You have to work with somebody like me that knows how to do it.
Right.
But it's a really good way to grow your retirement account tax-free.
Yeah.
Now you pay taxes on it just like when you take the money out.
Right.
And the last one I have to kind of do an example again. It's way more complicated than I'm going to make it sound. But I did a deal where I took $100 from my SEP IRA, self self-directed IRA for self-employed people, and I did what's called an option. So I put the house under contract under my real estate company, and then I did I did an addendum, taking it out of my real estate company that I usually buy properties in, and I did an option for $100 to transfer it into my self-directed IRA.
Yeah.
Now, there's a little bit more to that, but the bottom line is I only used $100. Now, in that particular case, I ended up, it was going to be an owner finance deal, and I had an in buyer. So, but what happened is that she had a life change about 9 months into it, and so she sold the house. So she ended up paying me off, and so I made a little over $45,000 in 9 months, and
That's
that money went right into my self-directed IRA. So if you flip a house and you make $45,000, you're going to pay taxes on that, right? But when you do it like that, it just goes right into your self-directed IRA. So I didn't pay taxes. Now, and the cool thing is, let's say like next year I want to draw out $10,000. So I only pay taxes on the money I draw out, or maybe 20, and unfortunately I am over that 559.5 limit. So I don't ever have to worry about the penalty anymore, unfortunately. But it's a really good way. So when we talk about you don't need a lot of money, using a self-directed IRA is a really good way to build retirement.
Yeah. And again, a lot of moms don't realize that when they do want to make that jump, you will have that money in your pocket if you want to quit your job, and if you have like a corporate position, you will have a 401k, and taking that and investing in real estate. Yeah.
So what you do is what we did for you is we got you connected with a self-directed IRA company, a custodial company, and you do what's called a rollover. So the money comes right out of your, let's say, Fidelity account, your 401k, and it goes right into a self-directed 401k. They have 401ks. They have, traditional Roth IRAs or whatever. But the point being is you roll it over so you don't have a penalty for taking it out early, and there's no taxes. And now it's in an account that you can direct. That's what it means. Self-directed means you can direct. And you don't have to just buy real estate. That's what I know how to do. But you can actually buy Bitcoin. You can buy anything you can invest in. You can use that with the self-directed IRA. But I don't know anything about that part of it, just real estate.
Right. So why would someone choose to use a self-directed IRA for real estate instead of just using, stocks or Bitcoin, like you mentioned, things like that?
One thing about, and I'm a firm believer in real estate, is that real estate, even if you buy it wrong, over time will appreciate. And it's shown to be not as volatile as the stock market or not as volatile as oil and gas. It's real estate, right? So the reason that you would want to invest with a self-directed IRA is that you get to grow when you open up a Roth IRA, or you have limits that you can do, based on your age. So you can only put in X number of dollars. Well, when you invest, and the asset, so what we're talking about is the property, is the asset inside the self-directed IRA. It's the one that's making the money, right? So now there's rules about how you can do this. So people ask me, well, we talked about vacation rentals. Could I do an Airbnb? You could, but you probably don't want to. And here's why. Because first of all, it's a hands-off, what they call a hands-off transaction. So when the example that I talked about with the buying the house, the $5,000.
Yeah.
So we couldn't make any repairs to it. We couldn't, if the end buyer was the one that had to pay property taxes. But let's just say we made it into a rental. So what would happen is all the rents would come to the custodial company and go into the account. So I can't touch it, right? Because that's a violation. And then if you violate the rules of self-directed IRA, the IRS, you can get lots of penalties and things like that. So there are certain rules you have to follow. And then the other thing, like I get asked, and I thought this too. So let's say that you have $50,000 in a self-directed IRA, and you want to go buy a beach house that's, I don't know, let's just say $250,000. Right. So you want to use $50,000 from your IRA as the down payment and get a loan for $200,000. Yeah, you can't do that. So the IRA has to own the property in whole, meaning you can't get a loan. So however much money you have in your self-directed IRA, that has to own it. Now, the way I got around that was with the option. So if I do an option, then I can transfer it into my self-directed IRA. So that's just and that's a strategy that I've learned like over the years. You know, it's not like, you know, if you're like, well, what is she talking about? That's okay, because a few years ago, I didn't know what I was talking about.
I mean, let's be real. I'm your partner, and sometimes I'm like, what?
Well, and let me just tell how that came about. So I happened to be on a podcast as a guest, and it was an investor type of podcast. And so when we were off air, I was telling the host, I was like, oh my gosh, I have this opportunity to get this property, and I really want to figure out a way to get it into my self-directed IRA, but I don't have enough because the money in my self-directed IRA was, invested in other properties. And so it was actually someone on that podcast that said, well, you should do an option, Nancy. I was like, what? And so funny. So the story on that is, so then I called the custodial company. I was like, oh, can you send me the option document, whatever that is? And they go, well, we don't do that. We don't provide that. I was like, okay. Well, I'm a licensed real estate broker. So the next thing I do is I go to the Texas Real Estate Commission website and I look for that form, option. Yeah, it doesn't exist. So I actually even called the Texas Real Estate Commission. I was like, oh, do you have this form? And they said, nope. So then I Googled it, right? And I actually cobbled together my own option form, which now I teach people how to use it.
Right.
And I asked the custodial company, I was like, okay, can you use that? And they're like, yeah.
So,
but if I hadn't have kept asking the questions and everything, and so I created that form for me to use. And now as part of my self-directed IRA training, that everybody gets that. So you don't have to go out and cobble your own form together. But it's one of those things that I want to say you can Google things about investing with a self-directed IRA, but you just have to be careful with all the information. You know what I mean?
Right. So option, and I know that's a little bit deeper in the woods for if you're just listening and this is all brand new, but if you want to read more about it, you can go to Forbes and just type in Nancy Wallace Lobbs option self-directed IRA. It should come up. That's about the private money lending, but yes. So I think we should bring it back up.
Okay.
A couple of levels, because again, if you've never heard self-directed IRA or kind of don't know about the strategy, I think this is a really good podcast to listen to, and really just want to break it down for our moms and our listeners out there. So why don't we pick one of the deals you choose, and why don't you walk through the steps of just how you found the property, how you found such a low cost price opportunity and housing, or just the steps and going through that.
Okay, that sounds good. And this can all be backed up because this story I'm getting ready to tell was featured in Ken Corsini's Profit Like a Pro. Yes, you're welcome, Ken, for the shout out. So, and I'm chapter 12. So the way that I used $5,000 out of my self-directed IRA was first I marketed for property. So
can we back it up even one?
Yeah, sure.
One more step.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as dumb questions, but maybe someone has this question out there. Did that $5,000 come from just your own personal bank? Did that come from previous deals that you had done?
Good question. Okay, so when I learned about the self-directed IRA, at the time I could only put I think we could open up an account because we didn't have one, right? So I've been self-employed for a long time, so I have a self-employed. So I did roll over my self-employed account, but this happened to be a Roth IRA that I opened up at the custodial company because I was like, oh, I need to learn how to do this, right? And they were focusing on the small dollar amount. And at that time, you could only put in $6,500, I think, based on your age and things like that. Like they called it the catch-up. So my husband and I literally said, okay, we're going to put $6,500 and open up a traditional IRA with a self-directed IRA company and see how this works. So we didn't know how it was going to work. We're just like, okay, we went to a couple of seminars and people were like, oh yeah, this is a great way to build your retirement without, tax-free. So that was like what we were looking at. So I was like, okay. So then I kept going to lunch and learns. I was like, okay. So then I finally went to a lunch and learn, and they were talking about the process of using your self-directed IRA to buy real estate. And I was like, oh. So now remember, I only had $6,500 in this account, so I wasn't looking for $200,000 houses. And,
right.
And the $10,000 house that we ended up finding was from a postcard. I get absentee owner. I get a bunch of different lists, but this one happened to be absentee owner, so people that don't live in the house. And this particular house had been vacant for over 5 years. The guy that I bought it from, he had been born there. I think it was built in like 1940, 50, something like that. And literally the city was getting ready to tear it down. So he had a lot of liens on the house. So I wasn't the first investor that talked to him. We just happened to, a lot of times you get deals and people want to sell to you and work with you, sellers now,
Right.
because there's some kind of connection. You have a rapport. So we ended up, and I'm not even a football person, but my hubby is a big Green Bay Packers fan.
Yeah.
And I think they were getting ready to play and whatever team he was rooting for, because he lived in, I think, Indiana or something like that, Columbus, Ohio. So that's how we bonded. We were probably like shooting the breeze for like, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes before we even started talking about the house. So then he says to me, hey, I called you because my wife has been saying, the postcard been laying there. And so his wife said, hey, I think it's time you sell that house. And the reason he hadn't sold it up to this point was because it was his family home, that he had been born there. He had been raised there. So he had an emotional attachment to it. So I think, I'm not saying, I think part of the reason that he sold it to me was because I didn't come off like, oh, hey, I want to buy your house, or, you know. And I being a broker, when I'm talking to people on the phone, I can actually look up the property address that we're talking about, and then I can get an idea of the value, right? You can do the Google Maps and see all that. So I knew that we're talking about a house that was pretty distressed.
Yeah.
And it turns out he had about $8,000 worth of liens on the house from the city of Fort Worth for mowing, and so he wasn't going to make a ton of money with this house at all, this deal.
Right.
So the tax value at that time was $14,000. So I offered him 10, and he's like, okay, he took it. I ended up doing all the paperwork online and just sent it over, DocuSign. He signed it. The next day, took it to the title company.
Pause really quick.
Pause.
The reason you could do all of that form stuff, is it because you have your broker's license, or could like anyone?
So no, it is because I have my broker's and I know how to write.
So you do need someone.
I could.
Someone
I
to
know
help facilitate it.
Yes, so I know how to write up contracts. Now, you don't have to, and because I'm a broker, I have to use the Texas Realtor, the ones that are for Texas Realtors. But if you were just like, you're not licensed, so you could do a contract.
Yeah.
That you just created. There's real estate contracts out there, but even if you're not licensed in Texas, you can use those forms. So they're solid. Attorneys write those things. So, they're about, I think they're 10 or 11 pages long now.
Okay.
So I wrote my own contracts, right? And sent it over to him. Now, because and I disclosed that I'm a broker, but he doesn't have to pay any realtor fees because I'm buying the house. So that's an advantage why a motivated seller would want to sell an investor a house.
Right.
Sometimes realtors get caught up in getting the commission, but if you're getting a good deal, and I knew we were getting a good deal.
Right.
So the next step was we opened escrow at title. So that what that means is I took over the signed contract. I took it to the title company. Now, remember, I'm using my $5,000 to buy. So the first thing I have to do is contact the custodial company and go, oh, hey, I want to use my $5,000.
Right.
And so they directed me to their website, and there's literally a form. If you want to buy a property, you fill out this form. So you fill out the form, with the property information, your account number, and you send that form over to the title company.
Okay.
Now, what's interesting is the contract was written, let's just say, Nancy Wallace Lobbs and seller. I'm the buyer, he's the seller. But when I do it with my self-directed IRA, okay, I don't want to get into the weeds, but remember I said that Nancy is not going to own the property.
Right.
So what it is it's like at that time it was Quest Trust Company, custodial company, for the benefit of Nancy Wallace Lobbs. So it's really the IRA that's owning that 50% of it. So, but the closing and everything is still the same. And then on closing, we closed about not quite a month later, and the custodial company, they have to sign off, the title company. Right. It's just like any other closing, and then the funds are wired from the custodial company. So it's closing. The only step, like if you're going to buy property, the only step that I added was getting the forms from the custodial company so that
Yeah.
my IRA could buy it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how often do these self-directed IRA, like what is the average amount of time? Because I think that you just said a month for one, but one of your other ones took like 9 months. So on average, how long would be?
Well, so to close, it's like any other closing. You know, you're going to have your 30, 45 days. The 9 months was kind of the second part of the transaction. So I bought the property and we closed like within a week. I mean, it was fast. But the reason that I closed when I made the 45,000 was because the lady who bought the house, remember I was doing owner financing, and she decided to move and sold the property. So she was paying me off. So think of it like this way. Like you are the Chase Bank or the Wells Fargo, right? When you're doing, because this was an owner finance strategy, both things I'm talking about. And for me, that's the best way to use this strategy because it's a hands-off transaction. Like if you have, let's say you want to do this with a long-term or short-term rental and you had repairs, well, you can't hire the person or pay them. The IRA has to pay them. So it can get bogged down in paperwork. And what happens is, so let's say you hired someone to paint the interior of a house. So in order to pay that person, I have to fill out a form on the custodial, for the IRA to pay the vendor for the paint. And that could take 7 to 10 days. And that's not because of me. That's their process.
So it just kind of depends on what's happening with the property.
Exactly. So.
Murray. I don't know if people will be able to.
Yeah, this is not okay. Murray.
So hold on.
Murray.
So mentioning owner financing, what exactly is that for those that might not know? Can you kind of give a brief, high level, what owner financing is?
Yeah, so owner finance is literally where you have purchased the property, and I do it using private money. So I'm borrowing money from people who usually have a self-directed IRA. They don't want to own property themselves. They want to be a passive investor. So they're willing to loan me money so that I can buy properties, right? Yeah. And then I'm paying their, self-directed IRA. So I usually have a way to purchase the property, either cash or through private money lending. And then I can turn around and resell the property. So I purchased it, and then I am selling it to you, for example, at a higher price, at a higher interest rate. So, for example, for private money, let's say that I bought a house for $100,000. So I might borrow $105,000 for closing costs and things like that, and my private money lenders might charge me 8% interest, right? But when I resell the house, maybe I'm going to resell it to you for $150,000. You have to give me 20% down, so that's $30,000 in my pocket because it's $150,000, and then I'm going to charge you. I'm paying 8%. I'm going to charge you, let's say 10%. So I'm keeping the delta between what I'm paying in interest and what you're paying in interest.
So someone that's looking into getting into real estate investing that maybe doesn't want to be as hands-on and they want it to be more hands-off, owner financing and being private money lender, what kind of a partnership would be the way to go, right?
Yes. So, and it's all about writing the correct paperwork. So when you purchase a property, there's just a contract to buy the property, so then it's just about, well, how are you going to finance? So if you were to buy like your personal home and you have like a financing addendum because you're getting a loan from a mortgage company. So think of the private money lenders as a mortgage lender, right? And so you still have to have the right paperwork. And if anybody's listening to this saying, oh, I want to be a private money lender, so you want to make sure you're in the first lien position. What that means is that if I should default on my payments, that you're in first lien position to take the property back, right? That you can get it. Because I've known people that they were like in third and fourth, and if something happens where the property gets foreclosed on, you're not going to get your money. So, and we're talking a lot of lingo and jargon, so I don't want to scare anybody off. It's literally, I had to learn this over years.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, definitely. Um, so if someone is listening to this and they're like, oh, well, maybe that's something that I could do, what would be kind of the first step they should take?
Well, I always say call me. But I also say, do you have an account already that you could roll over?
Yeah.
And then if you want to open up a self-directed, then research the different companies that are out there.
Yeah.
Because one of the things, the differences are the fees, because there are fees. So to have the account, sometimes
Just like
they'll
a
wait.
credit card, though, and
Yeah. So what I recommend is paying the fees outside your account, right? So don't have the fees inside. So yeah, you give them. But usually there's a quarterly fee. It's based on how much money you have and that how much your account is. But a lot of times these, it's competitive just like anything, and you can ask them to waive, the opening fee. A lot of them will, when they're trying to get new people, they'll waive the setup fee and that kind of thing.
so what is the difference? And this is kind of going back to something that you said earlier, but what is the difference between a traditional Roth IRA versus a self-directed IRA?
So the traditional, like if it's with a company that's non-custodial, meaning the only self-directed just means you get to direct what you're going to invest in. Traditional account, like traditional Roth or whatever, usually that's set up through a company, an investment house, and then they have a list of things that you can invest in, and usually it's stocks, right? So you don't get a choice of you get a choice within their portfolio of what they have, but if you want to expand beyond that, you can't do that with just a traditional.
Okay. So, where do you even find a self-directed IRA custodial?
So
and what should you look for when you're looking at one? Just like picking out companies, what are some benefits and things that you should look at?
Okay, good question. So I will say I was spoiled by Quest because I did a lot of talking with them. So I had a lot of connections at Quest Trust Company. And then they sold, like I said, earlier this year. So now what I would say is you need to Google and then call. And so my own criteria is if no one picks up the phone or emails you back, you need to keep moving.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
So there's a couple that I would like. I'm not going to name them names, but you just need to do your own due diligence. And then also what state you're in. Does that matter? Because it doesn't have to be. In fact, the one that Quest ended up selling to, it's not even here. It's not even in Texas, right? So I would just say Google self-directed IRA custodians, and then go to their website, make phone calls, ask people if they know. A lot of times people don't even know about this
Right.
exists. But and then I would pick up the phone and ask to talk to an account representative, and then see what kind of vibe you get. If they are willing to open the account with you. So when Quest was here, they were right here in Dallas. I know I'm giving them a big shout out, but you could go to their office, and then they had lunch and learns. And then I would also see what kind of training they have, like on their website. Like, do they have Zoom calls and things like that? Because that's important
Right.
to, especially if you're first opening up an account, you're like, well, what can I do with it? And they'll have, tax accountants on there that will talk about, like the regulations and restrictions that you can do. Like I can talk in a high level about that because I just know of what they are, but I wouldn't feel comfortable saying, oh, well, you can't do this, this, and this, right?
Right.
But you need to see what kind of training they have for, their account holders.
So maybe at this point, our listeners or a mom out there is feeling like, oh, I could definitely do this because, again, this is a great way to do if you want to do hands off and things like that. And especially with littles, I know I don't have the time to go do some flips, DIYs and all that. So hopefully maybe someone's feeling, motivated to do that. They've looked out a company, they've picked a custodial one, they're going to roll it over. So that money, once they do that, what necessarily happens? I mean, they don't have to start investing right away, right?
No.
What happens to that money just kind of sitting in that self-directed IRA?
There's no interest that's being paid on it. You do have fees, like every quarter, almost all of them have some kind of quarterly fee. So again, have that paid outside the account. Otherwise, it just kind of, dings away your money. But one of the things, in our focus group for our membership, what our moms asked for is they wanted a way to invest together. So this is the perfect scenario for moms to come together with their $5,000 or $10,000 or $15,000 self-directed IRAs, and they can all become private money lenders. Now I always get asked this, do we pool our money? No, you do not. Everybody keeps their own account, and you own a percentage of the deal that you're doing. So if we're charging like 10% and all of that, then that's another way to grow that small dollar IRA. And so in that article, I kind of talk about that one on Forbes.com.
So kind of opposite, you take this money, you invest in it, and you get, say you earn 10,000, you put in 5,000, you earn 10,000, whatever. Can I now take that money out, or what can I do with that money? What are some, obviously you can go and roll it over into another deal, but what are some other options that I could do with that money?
So you could become a private money lender. You can't take the money. I mean, it's just like what the self-directed IRA allows you to do is to put in more money than you would normally, like there's so much money you can put in a year, but with investing, you can actually grow that. So just like, let's just say if you earn $10,000, if you take that $10,000 out, you're going to get a penalty because you're not 59 and a half, right? And you're going to pay taxes on it. So the idea is that you want to keep it in there
and
to
just grow
keep
and grow.
growing, and you keep turning it over, and that kind of thing.
So this is a great way then to, like you said, build your retirement account, because once you're over 59 and a half, I think you said.
Yes.
You can take it out tax-free.
Yes. Not tax-free.
I'm sorry, not tax-free.
Yeah, you'd have to pay taxes on what you take out. Now, it depends on if you got the Roth or traditional, and I'm not a tax expert, but generally this money, when it goes in, is not taxed. So when you take it out, it will be taxed.
So would this, so a retirement account, but also would this be a good way for families to build money towards their kids' college education?
Yes. So there's the 529, I think it's called Cloverdale or something. I always want to call it. Sorry. But yeah, it's an educational account, and also health savings accounts. So a lot of companies offer health savings. So if you roll that over, so you can do health savings, you can do the college fund. Yeah, you can do that. And so it's a great way to build your kids' college fund as well.
So then how would that work in the sense you build it up? So say, my kid is 3 right now, and by the time he graduates college, if he goes right from like 18, so he's 22, so 21 years, right? Is that right? No. 20 years. Let's just say 20 years. 20 years. Okay, 20 years, I build up my self-directed IRA.
It's really 15 because he's 18. So he's 3.
No.
15.
I'm talking about the time he gets out of college, right? Because it's like, you like kind of build up your debt, whatever, and all that. So say he graduates college at 22, 23. So that's 20 years from now. That gives me 20 years to build with my self-directed IRA.
Yes.
But at that point, I'm only 30. Oh, so I'm 31 right now, right? Yeah, 31 right now. So I'll be 51. I'm not 59 and a half yet. How does that work?
Okay, so 529 is different than a traditional.
So would you roll over your self-directed IRA into the 529?
So you could. That's a financial advisor question.
Got it.
That's the question that you ask the custodial. Typically, it's an account like Roth to Roth, traditional IRA, traditional, can you open one? That would be, you'd have to ask the custodial. I don't know the answer to that. Because if you take money out of your 401k at your company and then you roll it over, does it have to be a like type of investment? I don't know the answer to that. So.
Okay. But it is still, self-directed IRA is just a great way to build for either retirement, for maybe something else bigger that you want to invest in, or college educations, or even trade school.
Well,
things
another
like
thing
that.
I'm just going to throw
or
out
your kid's wedding.
Yeah.
Or a house they want to buy later on.
And the other thing is, you can, like a lot of times people want to get into multifamily. So you can, now you usually have to have $50,000 to do that. But if you have a self-directed IRA, you can become a passive investor. Be very, very careful. Do your due diligence. But you can invest passively in multifamily deals. And there's like syndication. You can do oil and gas. So you have a lot more options. So if you have $50,000 and you're looking to grow that, that's I'm not going to say it's great because I'm not a multifamily investor. I do commercial net leases. So if you go into multifamily, just know that, you do your due diligence. That's all I'm going to say about that.
Perfect. So for moms listening who might feel intimidated or unsure, what's your best piece of advice to start with a small dollar IRA and investing?
So I think that they have to look at what their overall investment goals are. And if they're looking to just park some money and then be a passive investor, then they should open up, contact a custodial company and open up an account. They are going to need like, $5,000 to $6,500 to do that. I think it's usually like you can open up an account with like $1,000. You know what I mean? We did 65. That was the max that year.
Wait, you said you just said 65,000. You meant 6,500.
I meant 6,500.
So
sorry,
5,500. Not you do not need 55,000. 5,500 to 6,500.
Yeah, but you can open up the account with like $1,000 or $50. You don't have to have tons of money. Now, remember, if you open up an account for, let's say, $100, you're not earning any interest, and it's super hard to invest with that. Like I talked about the option, you could do that, but not right out of the gate.
So any moms out there that are listening and this is kind of the route that they want to take, what should they do?
Well, I think, one, they might consider joining our membership, right? Because we talk a lot in depth. And, in fact, we're launching our first live training on March 10th, right? And all of it's going to be recorded and things like that. And we're going to do deep dives. And then once a month, I'm going to do a Q&A. So I also have we also, in the membership, there is a whole course on just self-directed IRAs, and I dive way into the weeds, but that's good because you can stop and go, and then you could come to the live Q&A and ask questions about it. So
yes, definitely. So I think this has been a great episode to talk about, just what other ways, because again, initially, especially me, like I thought I had to have 20% down to start investing, and that's not the case. You can for me, I personally did 401k into self-directed IRA, and that's, how I started investing, and so many other moms can do that. I just talked to a family yesterday that she quit her job. She has an 18-month-old. She quit her job, and her and her husband are looking into getting investing, and she hadn't even thought of her 401k. I was like, yeah, same. I hadn't thought of it either. So I think this is a great episode and great way to kind of get started into investing if that is something that you want to do. But other than that, Mom, do you have any other things you want to mention about self-directed IRAs?
I think it's a great tool, a great vehicle to grow wealth tax-free.
Yeah. And you don't need to be a real estate agent to do this either.
And no, you don't have to be a real estate. And really it's learning the forms. It's really, it's still about finding the property, which you would do if you were, flipping or, wholesaling or whatever. So you still have to find the property, you still have to do your own due diligence. It's about knowing what form to use so your self-directed IRA can own it. And that's really, so it's, just learning the process. It's not any different than any other investing strategy. It just sounds more, oh my gosh, you mean I could do that?
Yeah.
And so it's a very good investment vehicle to learn, and it's not that hard.
Yeah. So if anyone has any questions, please drop them below in comments. If anybody is thinking about doing a self-directed IRA and still is kind of confused about it, please reach out. Happy to help answer any questions. But other than that, that's all I have today.
Okay, that's all I got too.
And like, comment, follow us on Instagram, all the socials, subscribe if you like
Now we have TikTok.
We do have TikTok, so you can find us on there.
And we did a Twitter.
We have it all. So you can find us across all the platforms. And if you thought this was interesting, or if there's something else that you want to hear about or anything like that, another way to invest in, please send us those questions. We love to hear it, and we'll do an episode about it. But
yep, sounds good.
All right,
thanks,
Mom.
Kelsey. Love you.
Love you.
Bye-bye.